Welcome to The Explainer. Ever stop and think about the money in your wallet? What actually stops it from becoming completely worthless overnight? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the powerful, invisible forces that control our economy. We're talking about central banks.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a super basic question. Why does a dollar today buy pretty much what it did yesterday? What's the mechanism that stops it from suddenly becoming as useless as monopoly money?
Well, the answer comes down to this incredibly powerful institution that honestly acts like an invisible referee for the entire economic game we're all playing.
And we call these institutions central banks. Now, just think of a referee in a huge championship game. What's their job? To keep things fair, maintain order, and make sure chaos doesn't erupt on the field. That is exactly what a central bank does for the economy.
So, if they're the referee, what's the goal they're trying to achieve? What does a well-run game actually look like? Now, here's where it gets kind of weird. You'd think the perfect number for price changes would be zero, right? Stable prices. But nope. Central banks are actually aiming for a little bit of inflation, usually right around that 2% mark. And there's a good reason for it. It acts as a safety cushion against something called deflation, which can be way more destructive to an economy.
See, this tiny, predictable increase in prices actually nudges people to spend and invest, and that's the fuel for economic growth. It's really the sign that the whole system is humming along at a healthy, steady rhythm.
But what happens when that number gets way too high? What happens when the economic party starts to get a little out of control and, really overheats?
This is really the crucial difference. When inflation is healthy and low, the money you've saved is pretty safe. But when inflation skyrockets, the actual buying power of your money just evaporates. It vanishes into thin air.
To put it bluntly, when prices rise too fast, your savings are getting wiped out. That $1,000 you tucked away last year, it might only buy you what $900 could have back then. It's a silent killer for your savings account.
And this is exactly when the party gets too wild and the referee has to blow the whistle and make a tough call.
So, the main tool the central bank has is raising interest rates. You can literally think of it as a penalty flag. This move kicks off a chain reaction. Suddenly, it's more expensive to borrow money. And because of that, people and companies start to borrow and spend less, which is exactly what's needed to cool down the entire economy.
Okay, that's the big picture. But what does all of this refereeing and penalty calling actually mean for you and for your wallet?
It's actually pretty simple. When the central bank hikes up interest rates, the cost of taking out any kind of loan, and I mean any kind, goes up. Getting the money you need just got more expensive. And hey, this isn't some abstract, high-level economic theory. This stuff hits you right where you live, affecting the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. The monthly payment on that new car, it's higher. That mortgage for the house you've been dreaming of, it's now harder to afford. Even the interest piling up on your credit card debt can start to climb.
And because all those big, important loans are now more expensive, people just have less cash left over to spend on everything else. That new TV, that big vacation, even a small home renovation. It all just got a little bit further out of reach. The party has officially been cooled down.
So if there's one thing you take away from all this, it's this. You have got to pay attention to interest rates. They are the clearest, loudest signal telling you how expensive it's about to get to borrow money.
Once you understand this game, you can start to anticipate the next moves. When you hear that referee's whistle blow, you'll know exactly what it means for your own finances. And that allows you to prepare for the next play instead of being blindsided by it.
We're going to keep breaking down these complex topics that shape your world, all to help you stay one step ahead of the game. Thanks for watching.